Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the 3-Minute Horror Show. My name is Ben, your host, and I love horror movies. In fact, I watch the bad movies so that you don't have to. You're welcome. Today I'll be reviewing the movie The Savage Bees from 1976. A transport ship traveling through the Mississippi Delta accidentally gets into a crash with another ship. This is sad, but normally not a big deal.
Wow.
However, this ship was full of nasty, sting-crazy bees.
Beads.
Bees?
Beads.
Beads?
This show was directed and produced by Bruce Bernard Geller, who is famous for directing and writing the shows Mannix and Mission Impossible in the 60s and 70s. This is one of the last things he directed before his death 2 years later at age 47. The Savage Bees can be streamed here in Canada on Tubi. A Freightliner crashes somewhere outside New Orleans and it was carrying a bunch of savage bees. These bees are killers, but they aren't ghostly boo bees that scare you to death. They are Africanized killer bees of the stinging variety. The Coast Guard finds a body that washed up that was all covered in crazy stings. He got beed. The bees all get loose and sting some stuff to death, starting with an old guy cop's dog. He manages to convince the coroner's office to autopsy his dog, and they find that the dog died of toxic paralysis from a bunch of bee stings. And moreover, the dog's stomach was full of bees. They were dead bees though, thank goodness. Can you imagine a dog full of live bees? The Savage Bees aired on the NBC network in 1976 on Monday Night at the Movies, when TV movies were a thing that actually existed. It even won an Emmy for its sound design. Wild! It ended up getting a theatrical release in the UK later in 1978. Now, if you're of a certain age, you probably remember back when television movies were a thing.
I'm old!
You used to be able to fairly reliably sit down on a Sunday night and enjoy a movie. And that could either be a heavily edited theatrical film, or an original made for the network. Netflix and their ilk are probably the most responsible for the death of the Movie of the Week format. After all, who wants to sit around for a week and wait for a movie that may or may not suck ass when you have an entire catalog of movies of every genre at your fingertips 24/7? Oops, it's Mardi Gras. The coroner and the old guy cop try to take this issue to the police chief and the mayor, but they do not want to cancel Mardi Gras and scare everyone. Even though we learn that the bees have already killed 13 people so far. 13 sounds like an awful lot of bodies to do absolutely nothing about, if you ask me. We get a basic lesson on how important bees are to the planet from a bee center guy, and how Africanized killer bees came to be in Brazil. It was a very sanitized version of what actually happened, though. The group is presented with an impossible choice. Either warn the public and risk everyone and their mothers killing bees and burning the hives, or do nothing and let the savage bees kill everyone in town. Science Lessons with Ben. Back in 1957, a group of rich Brazilians imported East African lowland honeybees in order to crossbreed them with their own honeybees. The goal being to create stronger honeybees that created tastier honey and way more of it. Well, that didn't work at all, and a bunch of these bees made a great escape. They started mating with the local honeybees and created even more dangerous and aggressive offspring.
Oh dear.
The AHBs, or Africanized honeybees, migrated northwards, eventually making it to California and Mexico in 1985, and then Texas in 1990. And over the intervening years, due to climate change and other factors, the AHBs have been able to migrate even further north. And now in 2026, the Africanized honeybees and local honeybee populations have become so interbred that any random colony could show the highly defensive qualities of the killer bees, and others just don't. Crazy, right? Now the cops have to split up and drive around town looking for the bees, which is a big reminder of how technology has changed over the years. Can you imagine just driving around looking for a bunch of bees in this day and age? Anyways, the bees are so dangerous that they can even kill a car. You seeing this stuff? So what happens next, you might ask? Well, geez, under a squeeze, the big cheese decides to freeze the bees. Why yes, I am proud of myself. Why do you ask? This was a TV movie, and it was equal parts preachy and fearmongery. It wasn't bloody, and it certainly wasn't scary. But it was pretty cool that they used real bees, though.
Bees?
That must have been quite a challenge. Overall, though, this story was a little boring, and I wouldn't bother with it. I rate The Savage Bees a 4 out of 10. As always, a link to my Letterboxd appears in the video's description. Please leave me a like, comment, and subscribe as it really does boost my engagement, helps my channel grow. Smell you later, nerds!
Hold on, Jenny. Just a couple minutes longer. Hold on.